Hi guys, if you're looking for how to make a flare pleated short, then this video is for you. So I have an already drafted pattern that I was about to use, but I didn't use it anymore. So I have my waist, my hip, my crotch and my full length. Now my waist to my hip is 9 inches, my waist to my crotch is 11, but because this is not a fitted shirt, I added 2 inches to it. You can add 2.5, 3 depending on your size. My waist to my full length is 19 inches and I added 1 inch for allowance, which makes it 20. I'm going to take my hip measurements, which is 44 divided by 4, 11. I'll take it on my hip, my crotch, and I'm also going to take it to my waist. I'm going to join the line together. Now I took my darts 4 inches and 4 inches length, took ½ inch on both sides, and that was how I arrived at the spot. Now to get my crotch curve, that 11 inches at the crotch, I'm going to divide it by 4, and then I had 2.75. I'm going to measure it there. I'll go up by 2 inches and then go up by 1 inch just to form the curve. So you can see the way I'm just forming it like so. So now if you're making a short, don't forget, if you have a 1.5 inch band, you remove 1.5 inch before you start your measurement. If you have a 2 inches band, you remove your 2 inches before you start your measurement. So you just place your 2 inches at your waistline and then start your measurement. Because of what I'm sewing, that's why I'm starting from where I'm starting, because it's a play suit. So I'm going to measure my full crotch measurement, and whatever I measured there, I'm going to put it at the full length, and then I'm going to add, I decided to just measure my leg and add some inches to make it, since it's not a tight dress, so I just added about 3 inches to it, and then I slanted my line like so. Now I'm going to measure my waist. I'll add my 1 inch dart and my 1 inch sewing allowance. I'll add sewing allowance to the hip and also to the full length, and then I'm just going to join them together. After doing that, I decided to use my marker to show you guys where the seam allowance is, so you guys can see properly. Now the next thing I'm going to do now, don't forget to add ½ an inch at your crotch area and the side going towards the full length. So I'm going to go down at my center front by ½ an inch and then just slant it to the waist so that my shorts can sit better, because I'm adding it to a bodice, upper bodice. Now next thing, I'm just going to add ½ an inch to my waist and to the rest of the shorts, and then I'm just going to cut it through. Now after cutting it out, I placed my pattern on a fresh paper. I'm going to extend my lines, my full length, my hip and my waistline. Now on my crotch line, I'm going to measure 2 inches. Remember we added ½ an inch, so you remove the ½ an inch and then add your 2 inches from the original line like you see me do. I'm just going to mark it, then I'll come down by ½ an inch, and then I'm going to connect the crotch curve all the way to that ½ an inch. Now at the waistline, I'm going to come in by 2 inches and then I'm going to go out by 1 inch. So come in by 2 inches and then I'll go out by 1 inch. Now on the sides, I'm going to go out by 2 inches all the way to the full length. And I'm going to connect the lines together. Now I'm going to connect that crotch curve all the way to the 2 inches line we have at the waist. While I was still doing that, I removed my pattern so I could be able to draft freely. I extended my waistline, extended my full length, and then I connected my crotch area all the way to my full length. After taking the measurements, I took my measurements and connected it to my crotch line. And then I'm going to connect the curve to that 2 inches line there. After connecting that, I'm going to take in 4 inches for my dart. I'll measure my waist too, and don't forget to come down by 4 inches and then take half an inch on both sides for the darts. I'm also going to slant my waist all the way to the side area of the back pattern. Now for the play suit I want to make, I'm going to have a zip at the back of the short. So I came down by 9 inches from the waist, and then I'm going to mark out 1 inch outward, and then the same way you're just going to form a zip fly. That's the same thing I'm just going to do. So I'm just going to mark out 1 inch all the way to the 9 inches, and then I'm just going to connect the lines. So after connecting the line for the zipper, I'm just going to add half an inch all the way to the crotch side and towards the full length of the shorts. Now after this, the next thing we're going to do is to cut out our pattern. So this is the front and the back pattern. This is what it looks like. The next thing we are going to do now is to take in our dart. I'm going to hold the dart and use a sellotape to hold it down. Now what we are going to do, I'm going to just rule a line from that dart all the way to the bottom side of the short. This is how we are going to turn it to a flare short, because we are not cutting it unbiased. So if you don't cut it unbiased, this is the way you can do it. This is called the slash and spread method. So I'm just going to cut it, but I'm not going to cut it fully like you can see. I'm going to place it on a new pattern paper. Now for your flare, you can decide to use any inch. You can decide to use 11, you can decide to use 10, 9, whatever you want to use. I decided to use 9 inches for my flare, so I'm just going to place 9 inches, separate them, and then I'm just going to place my tape around and make sure that the length is correct, I'm going to do that and join it to the other side of the paper. After joining it, I'm just going to cut out my pattern the way it is without letting it shake, just exactly the way it is. Now after cutting, that's my normal drafted short. I can use sellotape to hold it down, and then I still have that pattern in case I want to use it next time. But then this is the flare short we have made. Now I'm just going to use my marker to trace out the details around it so that you guys can see what it looks like, some of the seam allowances we have. The same thing we did for the front, we are going to repeat it for the back. So I'm just going to close the back dart, use a sellotape to hold it down. I'm going to rule a line all through that all the way to the bottom of the short, and then we are going to also cut through like how we did for the front, and then do the slash and spread method for it. After cutting it out, I'm also going to use a sellotape to hold it down for next time. Now this is our flare short for the back pattern. I'm also going to outline the important allowances we have so that you guys can see it, and I won't also be confused when I'm cutting or I'm sewing. So the material I'm going to be using to make this dress is a Mikado fabric, and for this pattern you need a strong fabric, so I used a Mikado. So I'm going to bring in my front pattern. Remember I indicated my darts. I'm going to measure the full length at the bottom, mark the half of the full length, and then I'm just going to, from that dart, I'm going to draw a line all the way to the other line I marked, and then I'm going to cut all through that line. Now before I cut all through it, I'm going to make a line in the middle. That line is going to direct me on the placement. You see when we get there, so you know it's a little bit important, but if you can place it without it, it doesn't matter, but it just helps me to know the placement. So for my pleat, I'm going to be using 5 inches. You can use more if you want, but I want my short to the pleat to stand, so I'm going to use a little bit of pleat, which is 5 inches. So now I'm going to use my ruler, and that middle line I'm going to extend it all the way to the material, and then I'm going to bring the other half of the pattern to where the line is. Make sure that the line is actually touching the other side of the line, and then the pattern is also at the 5 inches mark. So you can see how easy it is, and you know that your pattern is placed perfectly well. So all you have to do is use a pin and just pin it down, and then you cut all through. Now, while I wanted to cut, I just thought about the length of the short and I wanted it a bit shorter, so I decided to reduce the length to 18 inches. Remember, it was 20 inches plus the allowance, so now is 18 inches plus the 1 inch allowance. So I just reduced my length. I think the shorter it is, the better, because it made it, I liked the fitting after sewing. So you can reduce your length to 18 inches. So here I'm done cutting it out, and then you can see the way the pleat is going to be for the front. I'm going to mark the half of 5 inches, which is 2.5, because that is where the pleats are going to be meeting themselves. And then I'm just going to notch it. Now for the back pattern, I'm going to repeat the same thing. Measure the full length at the bottom, mark the half of the full length, and then connect it to the dark line, which I marked earlier after cutting it in flame form. And then I'm going to cut it in half, but don't forget to also rule that line, so it's going to help you, in your placement. So I'm just going to do that. I have already cut out the length of the back to match the front, and then I'm just going to place it, make my 5 inches pleat distance, and then I'm going to hold it with a pin and I'm going to cut all through. So this is what the back pattern looks like, and I'm also going to mark the midpoint of the 5 inches, and I'm going to notch it. Don't forget to notch, guys, please don't forget to notch, so you can know where your pleat is going to be at. So I've ironed down the pleat. I decided to make 2 pleats in front, so that 5 inches I just shared it into 2 and made sure that my waist measurement was still the same while doing that. So I'm going to join it together and then sew all the way to the crotch line by 1/2 inch. This is the back. I just did the original 1 pleat at the back. I'm going to also join the both sides together. I'm going to skip the zip allowance, and then I'm just going to use 1/2 inch and then hold the remaining sides of the crotch. Now I went ahead and I used 1/2 inch to join the crotch together for the front. As you can see, this is what it looks like. It looks very clean, and I'm going to remove the pins I use in holding the pleats down. Now for the back side of the short, I did the same thing. I used the loose stitch to hold the zip area, and then I held the remaining part of the crotch using a tighter stitch. Now if you are not making a jumpsuit like what I have, you just shape your short and then add your band and then your zip and hem it, and you are good to go. But for me, I am making a play suit, so I have to join it to the bodice. Now this is my bodice, and this is what it looks like. I've attached my sleeve. I used the facing to attach the armhole area. Now this is what it looks. This is the back and this is the front. It looks very, very clean. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to attach the front part of the short to the upper bodice, and then I will attach the back part of the short to the back bodice. So I went ahead and I joined the front and the back. I'm going to go back, attach my zipper allowance, as you can see, and then I'm going to shape my dress and hem it, and that will be all for this play suit. Now when you want to shape the dress, when you're using a facing, you're going to raise the facing up like you see me do. Raise it up, join it together, make sure the line is pointing the same place, and then join it up, and then you take your sewing allowance, and then when you turn it back to the front, it's going to be very clean. So I'm going to head over to my machine and I'm going to do that. This is the dress after I was done sewing. I decided to add a pocket to mine, and this is how it turned out. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you.